Hello everyone and welcome to round 3 of the SimRacingOnline McLaren M2B challenge with the 1966 McLaren Formula 1 car. Today we're at the fictional Horsma circuit, which is based in Finland. It's a very old school style circuit, but not as long as some of the others that we've had on the calendar so far this season. And that means that the drivers should be able to push that little bit harder because they'd have been able to remember the track easier and learn it quicker, and would have been able to do more laps in practice theoretically. As we see Fabrizio Ferrante there jumping up to second position in the order so far. So far it's Drug, followed by Ferrante, then Lawrence, Brown and Van der Geest. We're still waiting for Tim Muttram to set a representative lap time. He's currently P7 in the order, and I don't think that he's truly had a lap where he's gone for it and pushed just yet. And of course Tim Muttram is our championship leader, so we're still waiting to see what he can do. We have a new driver on the grid today. Let's have a look at him. He's in the pit lane at the minute. That's Christian Dorje. I say Dorje because he has a French flag registered next to his name. It might be Dorga or Darga. I'm not sure if it's a French name or not. But anyway, I'm going to say Dorje just to be on the safe side, and if I'm getting it wrong then I do sincerely apologise about that. Meanwhile, Lewis Dufour there went up into 5th position as I was speaking. Little bit of a spread out field as it stands, although we still have 3 minutes remaining in qualifying. So let's have a look at Tim Muttram here, coming to the end of another lap. Currently 10 people have set laps. It looks like only 8 of them, maybe even 7 of them, have been representative lap times. We know that Tim Muttram is capable of going so much quicker than this. We've got Phil Brown now goes up into 2nd position, but Yuka Drug improves his lap time. 141.365 from Drug, 142.507 from Brown, so over a second advantage Drug has. At the top of the times, and Muttram spinning. Muttram losing another chance to set a qualifying lap. Returning to the circuit, but he is going to be a long way. Well, oh, and that's at the start of a lap as well, so that's going to ruin his next attempt as well. Tim Muttram may be forced to start down the back of the order, down in 8th position, unless he can string together a good lap. He may get one more attempt after this, providing he doesn't lose too much time on this lap. You see him sliding the car out. That's natural. We see Muttram doing that at every single round. He tends to drive with his tail hanging out sideways more than forwards. That's just his driving style, and it always or usually tends to work for him. Meanwhile, Paul Anstey goes to 2nd position, but I'm going to keep watching Muttram because despite the spin, which would have cost him time at the start of the lap, I reckon that the rest of the lap he is going to be properly going for it. Lewis Dufour now goes up into 2nd position as Muttram crests the hill. Of course, everyone in identical McLaren M2B cars from the 1966 Formula 1 season. These were the very first McLaren Formula 1 cars, as driven by the legendary Bruce McLaren, and now as driven by the legendary Tim Muttram, Yuka Drug et al. We now have 3 drivers within a second at the top of the times because Lewis Dufour has set a 141.508. That's 2nd position, less than 0.2 of a second off Yuka Drug. Tim Muttram coming to the end of another lap of racing and preparing to put in a time. Of course, the end of his last lap wouldn't have set him up for a good lap, but here we go. Let's see what he's capable of. Muttram crossing the line, and it's 3rd. Okay, 142.132. I reckon he can go quicker than that still because he is 7/10 off the leader. We're watching our championship leader so far, although Muttram has to settle with 3rd for the time being. Meanwhile, Laurent Lons goes up into 5th position as we speak, and I'm just watching Lewis Dufour here in a very Brabham-esque looking McLaren car in terms of how it's liveried. The green racing, British racing green car with the white stripe up the middle, which only goes as far as the cockpit. Dufour completes another lap, does not improve. We now have the checkered flag. I reckon he crossed the line just before the checkered, so I reckon that Dufour is going to get another attempt here. We now have 11 drivers who have set laps because Donny Yorth has crossed the line and gone 10th. So 11 drivers on track today. Let's watch Paul Anstey and see if he can go any quicker. You see him flicking the car in, getting a little bit of grass on the exit, but keeping it very, very steady. This is the fastest we've seen Anstey driving all season so far. He's 4th in the championship as it stands, but still has not yet scored a podium, as only 3 drivers actually have. We've had 2 rounds, but the podium was exactly the same both times. So Anstey, who's currently 4th in the championship, I'd say is probably the driver who could take away the podium from the top guys. Although whether he will or not is a different matter. Tim Muttram goes to 3rd, stays 3rd. Rob Horsma jumps to 8th as it stands. Anstey coming through. He's got about 30 seconds left in this lap. Drug's in the pits, Muttram's in the pits, so neither of those are going any faster. Neither are Brown, Van der Geest, Dorga or Yorth. Rob Horsma stays 8th, he's completed his lap there. Ferrante stays 7th, he's completed his. We're just waiting for Dufour, for Anstey and for Lons. Here comes Anstey across the line, and it is no improvement for Anstey, so he stays 4th. What about Laurent Lons? He's still on a lap, coming through to complete another one. Can't quite see the timer. It looks to me as if he's backed out of it, and that's the lot. So Yucca Drug takes pole position at the fictional Horsma Raceway circuit. Louis Dufour is 2nd position, followed by Tim Muttram, then Paul Anstey, Laurent Lons, and that means we've got the top 4 drivers within 9/10 of a second of each other. The top 5 or 6 separated by about a second. And after Lons, it's Brown, Ferrante, Posma, Van der Geest, Dorga, and then Donny Yorth, rounding out the field of 11 drivers. Quite a competitive qualifying session there. Definitely wasn't quite sure what the order was going to be until right at the end. And you see them chatting in the game chat there. You see Louis Dufour saying, yes, amazing as usual, Yucca. And Yucca, of course, is well known for being one of the fastest drivers in the field. He's already taken a pole position this series at the Eiffel Sitzstracker, which of course was the Nürburgring Sudsschleife. And now, of course, he's taken his 2nd pole position of 3. That is the driver who's won the previous 2 series that we've done of F1 Classics on Assetto Corsa. Although currently 3rd in this. Let's run down through the championship standings. Currently is Tim Muttram leading the championship with 2 wins out of 2 so far, out of Yucca Drug in 2nd position, and then Laurent Lons in 3rd position. Those 3 have been 1, 2, 3 in that order in all 3 of the rounds so far this year. Then it's Paul Anstey in 4th place, followed by Phil Brown, 5th in the championship. John Van der Geest is 6th. Then it's Fabrizio Ferrante, Louis Dufour. Notice that Louis Dufour is only 8th in the championship so far. That's because of his DNF last time out at Montjuic. And of course, starting from 2nd in the order today, we'll see what he can do to put his championship challenge possibly back on target. Donny Yorth currently 9th place in the championship, and 10th place, having only completed 1 round so far, is Dionysius Ferraris. So we'll see how Dionysius can do in this 3rd round of the season. You see the lights about to illuminate. We've got 6 red lights, unlike they would have had back in the 60s, but we do have them here today, and when they go out we will be underway for 45 minutes of racing at the fictional Horsma circuit in Finland, and it's go at Horsma. The field gets away, and we'll be able to see exactly what order they're in as soon as they complete one of the sub-sectors. It's going to be a 45-minute race, and it's Yucca Drug who leads through the first couple of corners, followed by Dufour and Muttram, so no change at the front of the order. The only change so far has been Dauger passing Van der Geest near the back. That's for 9th position. Over the crest of the hill, slightly on the grass, gets Yucca Drug, but keeps it nicely under control in the number 9 car. All of these liveries well designed by Tim Muttram himself, who is currently 3rd place in the race in a wonderfully liveried black and yellow warning hazard stripe car. And fantastic to see these resplendent liveries showing in this race so far. Muttram going to the outside line, trying to pass Lewis Dufour in the early stages of the race. This is our championship leader trying to pass. Oh, and he's going off. Tim Muttram off the road on the first lap of the race, over the grass, over the runoff area. He's dropped to 5th position. Doesn't look like he's going to drop to 6th, but that's 2 places lost already for Tim Muttram. Paul Anstey is now up into 3rd position. Laurent Lons is up into to 4th. So that means that 2 of our championship, 2 of our podium finishers so far in this league are not on the podium at this early stage in the race. Lons currently 4th, Muttram currently in 5th, and they've been replaced in those positions by Dufour and Anstey, who are 2nd and 3rd. So Muttram, the first person to make a mistake, although still the field very, very close, and everyone's still running on this opening lap of the race. We're coming towards the end of the first lap, and still it's Jukka Drug who leads, but Dufour is close. As we now do start the second lap of the race. They're getting away a little bit from Anstey in 3rd position, and Anstey has Laurent Lons for company, but I'm going to keep watching Lewis Dufour because he seems to be more competitive at this circuit than he has been at any other circuit so far this season, and he is surely on for a wonderful race here. Of course, he did lead the race briefly at the Nürburgring Searchleifer before making a mistake and running off the road. So as well as pure flat-out pace, he needs to concentrate on keeping the car under control, being more consistent than he has been in the other rounds of the season. Meanwhile, change for 9th, we've had John van der Geest going up and past Christian Dauger. So that's a position that's changed further down the order. Although, of course, we have seen a high rate of attrition in some of the rounds so far this year. Of course, the Nürburgring had, I think it was only 6 finishers in the end. And we did have more finishers at... Actually, no, we had 7 finishers, sorry, at Montjuic last time out, from 11 starters. I think the Nürburgring Searchleifer definitely had a higher rate of retirements, because in that, indeed, we had 6 finishes from 12 starters. So a 50% DNF rate, and that means that the drivers near the back of the field, if they just keep running, could well be picking up significant points later on. Of course, the point system here is such that it rewards you for attendance, and as a result, it doesn't really matter where you finish, you're going to be picking up a decent bag of points compared to drivers who miss out a round or two. As we complete another lap, still Drug leading by 0.6 of a second from Dufour. It's still very, very close. 3rd position appears to have spread out a bit, so I wonder if Lons made a slight mistake on that lap, because now Anstey has got about a second advantage over him. Tim Muttram still on the back of Lons, and the other fight that's going on in this order as it stands is actually the 10th position. Dauger and Jorth in the fight for the last position in the top 10. Of course, wherever you finish in this race, you are going to be scoring points, and even if you don't finish, you score points as well. So long as you start the race, you score points, making it quite a lot like the IndyCar point system or V8 Supercars. Now we look again at Dufour, who got a wonderful exit from the last corner, almost got alongside Jukka Drug. But as we pass the forest, go through a part that reminds me very much of an inverted Moss corner from Mosport, Drug holds his line and keeps that 1st position. As we're almost 5 minutes into this race already, Dufour taking a wider line, looking to get a better exit speed and chase down Jukka Drug that way, and that's a really good exit there as we go under an advertising bridge and past some cones. No corner names on this circuit, annoyingly. And even more annoyingly, no corner numbers either, which is really going to throw me off. And finish names are always a lot of fun to say, so it is a shame that we don't have any elaborately named corners. Slight mistake there from Dufour, getting a little bit sideways coming out of the final corner, and that meant that his last lap was about half a second slower than Jukka Drug's, and he's now dropped to about a second back with that mistake. We have, Dauger off the road. Dauger off the road, keeps it just about under control, and I think he kept it out of the barrier. Although Dauger, in his debut with SimRacingOnline, great to have him on the grid, making a slight mistake there and getting away with it relatively well, it seems. Still great to have people discovering SimRacingOnline every single time out, and new people do tend to drop into this Assetto Corsa GPL 66 series. Of course, a lot of the people who do our classic Assetto Corsa series have come from the Grand Prix Legends, which ran with classic Grand Prix cars, much like this one. I believe that's where Tim Muttram and Jaka Drug are from, and where they learnt their craft, and that also shows exactly why they have such immense car control. Although you don't have to drive a car like this to race with SimRacingOnline. We have plenty of different championships for you to try out if you want to get involved. We have races on Assetto Corsa, R-Factor 2 Race Room Racing Experience, R-Factor 1 Assetto Corsa Competizione, Automobilista, and Project Cars 2. So whatever sim you drive, there really is no excuse for not getting involved with SimRacingOnline, and we have plenty of different cars to test as well, from front-wheel drive touring cars to rear-wheel drive touring cars to silhouettes, classic single-seaters, modern single-seaters, GT cars, and stock cars as well. And some of our upcoming championships look very, very exciting indeed. Meanwhile, back to the race. We've completed 8 minutes already, and Drug is getting away from Dufour at the front of the field, although someone who isn't really getting away is Steve from Lons. The gap did come out a bit earlier on in the race, but now it's come right back down again, and Lons is challenging for that third position in the number 2 car. Slight lag spike on the server there. I'm not sure if that was the same for the drivers or just for me, but anyway, nothing too dramatic, and everything is okay. Hello to everyone watching along. I know we've got two of my good friends from GT Hub watching along. Not in the YouTube chat, I see, but it's good to have them tuning in. And you guys are amazing. Thank you very much for all of your support. Also, hello to Martin McLean, who is watching in the YouTube stream, and he says hello in the YouTube chat. Hello to you as well, Martin. Shame you're not on track with us today. I know that you've raced these cars in the past, and you've raced with us in our classic single-seater series, and we'd love to see you out on track sometime soon if you'd like to give it another go. But anyway, back to the race. Dufour has caught up a second there on the back of Drug, so I wonder whether Drug made a mistake on that last lap. The gap's now back down to 9/10 of a second when it was up at a second, and we'll look at their lap times. Yeah, look at that. That's 8/10 of a second faster for Lewis Dufour, who sets the fastest lap of the race so far. So maybe Lewis Dufour is really starting to push now. He saw Drug getting away, and now knows that he has to put the hammer down. These two fought for the lead at the Südschleife. Very sideways for Dufour, and he does a bit of an overcorrection there, so he's going to lose a little bit of time on the exit of that corner, although it shouldn't cost him too much at this point in the race. But that battle appears to be one that's not going away anytime soon. Now, meanwhile, well, we've got a little bit of stagnancy. Let's look down the order and look at Brown versus Ferranti. That's over 6th position. And also, Tim Muttram has caught up to the back again of Lauren Lons. And this could be important for the championship, of course, since we're looking at the drivers 3rd and 1st in the championship, respectively, 4th and 5th in the race, as it stands. And as we're now 10 minutes into the race, Muttram would definitely have wanted to gain places faster than he has done so far. Won't cost him too much in terms of the championship. First place, of course, is worth, let me just double check, first place is worth 30 points, and 40 points, sorry, and 5th place is worth 48, so you're only losing 12 points from winning, and considering you get over 12 points just for showing up, that's really not that much in the grand scheme of things, especially if he makes every single race of the season, which we hope everyone here does. Of course, there have been some drivers here who haven't so far. Of course, Dionysius Ferraris, Bill Grucock, Roel Posma, Adam Manderson, and Flavio Bosga currently all only have one race start to their name, except Ferraris and Posma now have 2, since they are racing in this as well. and of course making his first start throughout the whole of SimRacingOnline, not just in this particular series, is Christian Dorga or Dauge, who is currently in 11th position and just set his personal best lap of the race, so not bad at all. Well done to him, and I hope that he is having the time of his life on track today. So as the gap for the lead continues to fluctuate, the gap for 4th position continues to... Ooh, Mutram dips a wheel on the grass, gets away with it. You've seen him getting very, very wide, very sideways a lot of the time. Again, that's just how he drives. Although, probably wouldn't have wanted to go quite that wide. A little bit of a chunk of time taken out of drug by Brown there. I know I'm flitting a lot between this fight and the one for 3rd, 4th, 5th position. But really, I'm not sure who's going to strike first. It's difficult to strike because, as I was talking a lot about last time at Montjuic, the braking zones in this car are so small because they're so light and nimble and don't really have that much power on the straights. And because the driving style does tend to be to really four-wheel drift the car through the corners. It's not like a car with more aero where you have to do all of your braking in a straight line. The 4 wide but keeps it within the concrete. Brown's lost a place. Fabrizio Ferranti gets up into 6th position there, so a change there. We saw that Ferranti was hounding him for a couple of laps, and now that position has changed. Fabrizio Ferranti, of course, is a race winner in not this particular series, although he has been a race winner in this league in the past. He won the final race of the first series that we did, and Philip Brown, who he's racing against, I don't think has won a classic Grand Prix race with us just yet. Indeed, he has not, because despite racing in plenty of series with us and despite taking quite a few podiums, Brown is actually yet to get his first victory, so he will be hoping to do that soon. Does have a fastest lap. He took fastest lap at it was in the Renault RS01 trophy at Estoril earlier this year. I do love those Renault RS01s, although anyway, still yet to take a victory. Towards the end of another lap, what's the gap between Drug and Defoe? It's 0.8 of a second. Laurent Lons in 4th place, setting his personal best lap of the race, pushing to try to catch Paul Anstey. He's close to the back of him, only a second off, and he's got much room for company as well. That's a 3-way scrap almost for 3rd position. And we're almost a third of the way into this race already. Of course, 45 minutes started off on the timer. We've got almost 30 minutes remaining. Just over 30 minutes, rather. And considering when they cross the start-finish line at the end of the race, when the timer ticks down at the end of the race, they will still need to cross the start-finish line. It's probably going to end up being more like 31 minutes. But anyway, over another hill. This track has quite a bit of elevation change overall. I was looking at the stats earlier on, and I've just realised, as I've started to say that I closed that page. Although, yeah, definitely quite a lot of elevation change. 112 feet, goodness me. Yeah, that's quite something there. Just gonna try to translate 112 feet into to meters so I can get a better picture of what that means. But anyway, Louis Defoe sets the fastest lap of the race in his pursuit of Yucca Drug. He's now within 0.4 of a second of him as they go through turn 1. So he's on a full-out attack, but will he be able to find a way through on this lap? I was about to say that was a beautifully done corner, although slightly over-rotated partway through. Didn't lose too much time, if any, though. Maybe half a tenth of a second. Although this is a very momentum-based track and a very momentum-based car, and it could be costing him more down this flat-out section, of course. And feet to meters. Incidentally, that's... oh wow, that's about 34.1 meters in total. This track changes. Which is quite something. Of course, Finland known for its hills and mountains. So, Defoe taking a very different line to Drug there, showing him his nose. Possibly losing out a little bit of time in all of that. Actually, I'm not so sure because he was so strong mid-corner. Towards the end of another lap, we're about to see the lap times they set. I think Drug's would have been slightly faster. Indeed it was the fastest lap of the race. So Drug responding to the pressure. Pushing. He knows that Defoe is there, and these are two drivers at their absolute limit that we're watching in front of us. Oh, Donny Yor's had an incident. He's off the road. Spinning. Oh, tags the invisible barrier. And Yorth in the number one is stopped by the side of the road. I don't see much life going on. That may... yep, that's his race over. So Donny Yorth becomes our first retirement. We've also had an incident for Roll Posma. I don't think those two were related in terms of the incidents. I think that's a separate incident for Roll Posma. And he spun at the final corner, which is where Muttram spun in qualifying. He's lost a place there to John van der Geest, who sets his personal best lap of the race there. But Posma continues on his way. We look back now to the scrap for the lead of the race. And continuing to push. This is, of course, the halfway point in the season. Round 3 out of 6. And the 3 races that we have after this. We have Rouen in just a week's time, and then we are going to Mosport in Canada, and the Adelaide Street Circuit. Oh, change for third. We've got Laurent Lons. Well, he attacked Anstey. He certainly had a proper attack on Anstey there, got briefly ahead of him and then immediately dropped back again. So I reckon that was just a big lunge that didn't end up working for Laurent Lons. And now he's got Tim Muttram taking a look to his outside almost. That was close. Just noticed the big Horsma Raceway sign on the inside of turn 1 there. And that's going to end up costing all of those drivers quite a bit of time. Defoe now right on Drug. Look at that. And over the grass as well. Drug gets squirrely. Defoe, I think, had to back out of it because there was temporarily less than a tenth of a second, and then suddenly the gap came out. Defoe taking a tighter line on the exit. This is very tense. You couldn't fit a sheet of birch between the two of them. Anstey off. Anstey is off the road. He was running in 3rd position. And it looks to me as if he's possibly rubbed up against the wall there. Maybe just about kept it out of the barrier. And he's lost 3rd to Lons. He's lost 4th to Muttram as well. It's all kicking off at this point in the race with 25 minutes remaining. And looking back at the replay, I think Anstey did indeed meet the barrier. So, Drug and Defoe locking horns. Defoe gets a much better exit to the final corner. Possibly has to back out of it though, due to the fact you can't drive through people. Or you shouldn't anyway. A faster lap that last time around for Defoe, but only just. Defoe going to the outside line, forcing Drug to go defensive. There is an overlap. There's a touch of wheels and Drug's off. Drug spins. Spins back across the track, and Defore's waiting for him. Defore accepts the blame. They're going to lose the lead, are they? Yes, they are! Through goes Laurent Lons to take the lead. Drug is second, and Mutram's off. Mutram there gets involved, runs wide. Goodness gracious me. What a dramatic turn of events as Lons leads, followed by Drug, then Mutram and Defore. Defore clearly accepting the blame for the incident, waiting for Drug. That's sportsmanlike. Although the two drivers coming through suddenly had two cars in their way and Mutram went off the road in avoidance. What a palaver. Defore now right on the back of Mutram. He went for one place, he lost 3. And both he and Drug will be pretty frustrated by that. Defore probably at himself more than anything. Oh, and he's lost it again. Defore's in the wall. Keeps it running. Does he have damage potentially? Oh, he's been hit. He's been hit from behind. That's a big crash, and it's Paul Anstey. Anstey was involved. And he's still spinning across the road. Heavy contact with the wall is made by Defore. Defore and Anstey return to the circuit, and Defore will surely have damage. Well, I'm not sure if the rear is pulling a little bit. It doesn't seem to be handling perfectly. Anstey spun the car around, and that was a fast incident between the two of them there. Really fast incident. And very unfortunate. I'd love to have a look back at that, although unfortunately Assetto Corsa and YouTube aren't offering me replays at this point in time. But this race has really kicked off in the last couple of laps. Defore still running but in 7th position after all of that. Anstey still running but in 6th. And the two beneficiaries for the latest contact, Fabrizio Ferranti is up to 4th. And Phil Brown is up to 5th. So the order completely shuffling, completely switching around. And probably some drivers with damage, varying levels of it after that as well. Tim Mutram now up into 3rd position. Of course, Mutram has dominated the last 2 races. Well, I say dominated, had a poor start at the Südschleifer and had to really work his way back through the order, although he still managed to win. Brown passing Ferranti, so Brown is up into 5th position. Mutram's winning margin at the Südschleifer ended up being about 18 seconds in the end. And at Montjuic Park last time out it was even more than that. It was more like 21 actually. So he's had huge leads. Oh, Drugs from wide. Lons has taken the lead. I'm sorry I didn't see that happening, but yeah, indeed. Oh wait, no, Lons was already leading. Ignore me. That's just me being a few laps behind mentally. That was Drug attacking Lons, not Lons getting past Drug there. So Lons leads Drug, leads Mutram. The 3 of them separated by just 0.6 of a second. Anstey pushing to try to catch back up to Ferranti. He's just set his personal best lap of the race. Drug slipstreaming Lons towards the start of the 2nd sector of the course. And he goes for it, does he? He's on the right hand side. Now where can he position his car for the next corner? How can he find the advantage? Switchback potentially? Not quite, it's not the ideal corner for switchbacking, it's too long. Does get a nice run over a curb, through a kink. And Ferranti's DNF'd, so Ferranti becomes a 2nd retirement of the race. Fabrizio Ferranti. Big shame for him, he was running in 6th position, 5th position actually, doing a great job. And Ferranti, of course, who hasn't had the best of season so far, hasn't really adapted well to this car, and was only 7th in the championship, is going to be even lower than that. Not that 7th in the championship's anything to be sniffed at, I mean no offence, although he would have expected and wanted more. And now retires from the race. Drug close once again. And the top 3 drivers separated. The top 3 drivers separated by just 0.8 of a second. Less than that. Out onto another lap of the race. We have less than 19 minutes to go. And these 3 are scrapping like the championship depends on it. And who knows, towards the end of the season, it might do. These 3, of course, are the 3 drivers who have finished on the podium in both of the races so far. However, they are in opposite order today. So in the past 2 races, it was Muttram followed by Drug and Lunds. This time it's Lunds followed by Drug and Muttram. Partially due to those incidents, but you have to say Lunds has been keeping out of trouble so far. Drug getting over the grass. Muttram might get a run on him here. These 2 are the drivers who fought for the championship last season. Lewis Dufour now retires from the race, so we've had our 3rd retirement. We saw Dufour getting into all of that drama earlier, contact with Drug, and then also with Anstey. And now he retires from the race, and he will be gutted. Especially since his consistency wasn't great in the first 2 rounds of the season, and it was looking so much better here today until the incident started to kick off. Possibly just lost concentration. And now Muttram is on the right-hand side of Jokke Drug's car. Lon sets a personal best lap of the race, trying to get away from them. Drug and Muttram side by side. Drug gets to her head. Muttram... excuse me. Drug gets to her head. Muttram clearly the faster driver at this point in the race. I wonder if Drug might potentially have damage. I doubt that he does. Although he was definitely faster before the incident. Through a fast right-hand kink. And up towards another fast right-hand kink. Possibly a little far to the right there. You see Muttram approaching in his mirrors. Almost going to the right-hand side. Almost getting an overlap. And that is a very scary situation to be in as a driver. Seeing someone getting a run on you as you're going through a flat-out section of kinks. And then losing sight of them in your mirrors. That's tough. And you just need to hold your line, remain predictable, just as Drug did there. And hope that the person behind you isn't an idiot, like Muttram clearly isn't. Meanwhile, Christian Dauger sets another personal best lap of the race. He's still running down in 8th position. Half a minute off anyone else after his incidents earlier on, but still running, and good on him. In his first SRO race, this is all about gaining experience for him. I'm not sure how experienced he is in terms of sim racing as a whole, although probably the first time he's ever raced this car. Lauren Lund sets a personal best lap of the race, still trying to get away from Drug and Muttram, who are fighting behind him still. Separated by about 0.8 of a second as they are. This is a scrap that's been going on ever since the incident with Lewis Dufour. And it appears it may go all the way, and I love saying that about fights. Because when you see a fight as close as this, and you know that it's going to remain this close, that's tension. They don't necessarily need to be side by side all the way for it to be an exciting race, because tension is the greatest form of drama, as any great scriptwriter or author will have you know. And I tell you what, if there are scriptwriters for this race, they've done an excellent job of it. The tension still building, waiting to be released. Down the hill, Drug getting slightly wide. Muttram again within half a second of him. Half a second really is nothing. If you try to count to half a second, you can't do it because you've missed it. And when you're racing this close, it's so tricky not to make errors. So tricky not to be thrown off by your opponents. Meanwhile, Mutram did get a little bit squirrely through that last corner there. So difficult not to make contact with people, but these drivers know what they're doing. They're experienced. I think all of these three have had experience on Grand Prix Legends. And they're showing it. Showing their experience, showing their expertise, and still running strongly. It seems amazing to me that Laurent Lons has not won a race with SimRacingOnline yet. He's been so close, he's been so near the front every single time. He's taken 4 podiums in the F1 Classic Series before. Didn't actually do many races last season, but in the first season, 4 podiums out of 7 events. So the fact that he hasn't won yet is almost a travesty. But he looks set for it today. I should assure you that I'm sitting on wood. He's also taken 2 pole positions with SimRacingOnline. Both of those also with the first F1 Classic Series that we ran towards the start of this year. This is the 3rd F1 Classic Series for the final third of the year. Very quick fire series these are, and wonderful events they are at that. Fifth Hellrider joins us in the YouTube chat and says, "Hey guys, I'm Fabrizio Ferrante. Another disco, unlucky again. I presume that means you had a technical failure. I'm really sorry to hear that. That's a big shame. You were doing a very good job in 5th position before you retired. And hopefully you will join us next time out and have a better time of it." The leaders back together again. There isn't a second between any of them. Except Lons to Mutram, but even then it's only just a second. And with just under 12 minutes remaining in this race, this is getting to the stage where push may come to shove. Literally or figuratively, in fact. Hopefully not literally. Tim Mutram, 3rd place, hounding these drivers. He has 2 wins to his name in this series already. 4 wins in the Porsche 718 Classic Tour that's just finished. He actually won that championship. And also 2 wins from last season of Grand Prix Classics as well. And Jukka Drug, who's following him, has both of the previous Grand Prix Classics championships, along with 9 wins in total. He's won more Grand Prix Classic races than anyone else in the Assetto Corsa segment of SimRacingOnline. And all of these drivers are very, very competitive, very close. Very strong racers. Tim Mutram sets his personal best lap of the race as Lons, you see him there taking a defensive line, and Drug gets squirrely over the curb, and Mutram's coming at him on the exit. Mutram kicked his tail out to allow himself to get the maximum power down that he possibly could. Didn't quite work out for him as much as he would have liked, but very, very close. I'm interested to see where these drivers are on driver rankings as well. Oh goodness me, Jukka Drug is top driver. He is the top rated driver in SimRacingOnline. 10.385, that's a very impressive rank. 9 wins from 15 events overall. And I think he's recently taken the lead in that. Of course, our previous leader was Ricardo Almeida, who mainly races on the rFactor 2 side of rFactor 2. Tim Mutram is 7th overall, 8 wins from 15 events. And Laurent Lons is currently actually not in the top 25. Now that is surprising. I would also like to point out that I am P15. But anyway. Oh, mistake from Drug. Drug's going straight on. Drug's off the road. And that means that Tim Muttram goes up into second position. A big, big mistake from Yucca Drug. I'm going to have a look back at the one replay that I get to see exactly what happened. But that does put Tim Muttram up into second position and take significant points out of Yucca Drug. Looks to me as if he just got it a bit wide through the little kink before. Was too close to the inside on entry and just overshot. And look who else is off the road. It's Lons. Lons is off. Lons has dropped to third. Muttram leads, followed by Drug and Lons. Now, where have we seen that order before? That's right, in both of the previous races. We're back to championship order due to a mistake from Lauren Lons. Looks to me as if he just over-rotated on the entry of turn 1. Got it over the curb, got it over the grass. And dropped back to third position. How many more twists and turns is this race going to throw at us in the final 8 minutes of racing? My goodness. So Muttram leads, followed by Drug, Lund, Brown, and Steve, Van der Geest, Posma, and Dauger. The 8 drivers remaining, Drug getting over the grass. Keeps it under control. And you really have to feel for Lauren Lons there. It was his own fault, but still, that's gotta hurt. I have now managed to find Lauren Lons on the overall order. He is ranked 38th out of all drivers in SimRacingOnline. I expect he'll be higher up on the open wheel standings though. Indeed, on the open wheel standings, Yucca Drug is first, Tim Muttram is third, I am 8th, and Lauren Lons is 12th. The other drivers in this race who are high ranked in the order, we had Fabrizio Ferrante. Of course, he is rated 9th overall in the open wheel point standings, the overall rankings rather, and also John Van der Geest is ranked 13th with Phil Brown 15th. Those, of course, come from the SimRacingOnline ranking system that we have on our site to determine who is the most successful driver statistically over all races and all simulators in SimRacingOnline. Top overall and top of open wheel, Yucca Drug currently top of sports cars. But Zverink, a driver who I've never commentated on or raced against, in fact, I'd love to have a race with him at some point. Muttram's off! Oh no! So all 3 of our leaders have had off in the have had offs in the last few races, and Tim Muttram is our latest victim. I did say, how many more twists and turns will this race throw at us? And there's another one for the books. Tim Muttram suddenly disappeared off to the right of the screen. Don't know how that happened, but he's now down to third position. So Drug leads the race, followed by Lons, and then Muttram. Whether that'll change again or not, I'm not sure. It certainly could, because you've got 5.5 minutes to go. And this race just does not seem to stop throwing changes at us. Tickle me gently with a eucalyptus leaf. This is ridiculous. So, Drug now leading. Lons and Muttram separated by just 9 tenths of a second, less than that, 8 tenths now. Going through turn 1, we're probably going to get 3 or 4 more laps left. I'm too lazy to work that out in my head. Just quickly finishing what I was saying about the ranking system. Of course, we have rankings for overall, for open wheel, and also for sports cars and touring cars. Top of overall is Yucca Drug. Top of sports cars is Bart Zverink, and also top of touring cars is Geert Jan van Osch, who is another driver who I've raced with a couple of times. But anyway, What a dramatic race we are witnessing here. And these top three... Oh, we've got a little bit of traffic coming up now. I think that's... is that Dauger? Yes, it is. Christian Dauger, about to be lapped for the first time of asking. Impressive that we still have everyone on the lead lap up until this point, apart from the people who have retired from the race. It's been quite a competitive race so far. Dauger now getting out of the way of the leaders going through safely. And Lon's getting sideways contact! Lon spins! Goodness! Lon's going for a full 360-degree rotation, Muttram making contact with him. Poor Dauger almost got caught up in it as well. Lon's now repassing Muttram, so Muttram feels that it was his fault. Looking at the replay, if I was Muttram, I'm not sure I would have given that back, since it looked to me as if Lons was already spinning. Actually, I'm not so sure, because Lons still appeared to have it just about under control, as much as he was having a poor corner. So that's sportsmanlike of Muttram anyway. I think possibly he did need to give that back, although I can't put too much blame on Tim for that. He's now going at Lons again, going to the right-hand side. Goes through on the inside, does he? It's a long corner. Lons can still put down the power on the outside. Drug has suddenly found himself with a 7.8 second lead. Who would have thought that? And Lons and Muttram still side by side towards the next corner. Muttram very sideways. Plants his foot. That is wonderful from Muttram. Gets the power down. Great move. Move of the race so far. I should point out in terms of the accident there, they were passing Christian Dauger at the time, but in no way was that Christian Dauger's fault. He did nothing wrong in all of that. You could say he was even too generous, as technically you don't have to get out of the way of the leaders in this series, according to the rules. As Lons gets a bit wide there, although Dauger did anyway. Very sportsmanlike of him, very safe, and it was simply mistakes from both Lons and Muttram that caused that incident. I'd say it was 50-50 Lons and Muttram, if I was to be a steward on that one. Lons got sideways, Muttram possibly came in a little bit too hot and didn't allow for that. So I'd say a 50-50 incident there. And as we have now just 2 laps remaining in this race, Jukka Drag now has a commanding lead. It's going to look like he's dominated this race, but the timesheets will not tell the whole story. Oh my goodness, they absolutely won't. In fact, let's quickly have a look at some of our other drivers in this race while we still have the chance. Phil Brown running in 4th position. Let's ride on board with him actually, since we haven't seen enough of him so far today. He's run such a clean race that we haven't had to have a look at him. This is how you do this Horsma circuit, nice and clean. That car that you see ahead is Christian Dauger, about to be put a lap down by Phil Brown. Down a gear, not sure quite what gear he's in there. I'd say probably 3rd gear, probably. Now he's, I expect, in either 2nd or 3rd, possibly still 3rd there. Up the hill in this classic Formula 1 machine. Back in these days, the formula referred mainly to engine size. These were 1.5 litre cars. Of course, the very next year, as Dauger there gets out of the way nicely, the very next year, the cars increased in engine size, and that created a real power-hungry era of Grand Prix racing. Jukka Drag now is onto the final lap of the race, so just 1 to go. Phil Brown about to complete his own lap. There he goes across the line. So let's have a quick look at Paul Anstey, who's just set his personal best lap of the race this late on. Still pushing, possibly, to try and catch Brown. I think if Brown makes a mistake, it's still very much on, although this is the final lap, so I doubt that's going to happen. Touch wood, although I'm not superstitious. Under the bridge, out towards the 2nd sector of the lap. I will catch Drug before he crosses the line. Don't you worry about that. But Anstey, I'd say, has driven quite a good race as well. He had that one incident with Dufour earlier on, and we didn't get to see it from his view or even from the outside view. Don't know if it was his fault or not, although he did appear to just run into the back of Dufour. Not sure if he was unsighted or anything. It was just unfortunate. The checkered flag is ready and waiting for Yucca Drugs. Let's have a look at him now as he crests the hill in the yellow number 9 car, designed by Bruce McLaren. The livery designed by Tim Muttram. And Yucca Drug looks set for a 5-second winning margin here. It's been a fantastic race for him. He's kept clean despite the incidents. And across the line, Yucca Drug claims an unlikely victory. Well done, Yucca. Tim Muttram second. Laurent Lons is third. Seems that all of those drivers made mistakes at some points in the race. It was not flawless for anyone. Phil Brown is 4th position, followed by Paul Anstey 5th. Then John van der Geest is going to claim 6th position, although we have to have a little while to wait for him since he is about 41 seconds down on Anstey. So you get to see the final sector of the course all over again. Philip Dauger has just finished in 8th position, the only of our 8 finishers not to finish on the lead lap. But well done to him for finishing his first SimRacingOnline event. Not a lot of people do, so great job from Phil there. John van der Geest about to finish 6th position. Nicely done, crosses the line, and Roel Posma will claim 8th place. I see a little bit of lag going on the stream, so I'm just going to close a few tabs to stop that from happening. My apologies for that. And Roel Posma completes the race. He is our last finisher on the lead lap. So that means, again, it was Drug, followed by Muttram, Lons, Brown, Anstey, van der Geest, Posma and Dauger. And the 3 retirements were Dufour, Ferrante and Yorth. The same podium as the last 2 races, but in a slightly different order, with Drug this time finishing ahead of Muttram. Lons has finished P3 3 times in a row now. And those 3 still clearly the championship contenders. Muttram still leading the championship, but Drug closing the gap. And heading towards the next round, I believe they will be separated by just 4 points. Next round, of course, will be in 1 week's time. And it's still all change at this point in the championship. Anything could happen. What a dramatic race that was. I would not want to miss the next round from Rouen in France. I've been Caitlin Penny, your commentator, camera person, and streamer today. This has been SimRacingOnline, the McLaren M2B challenge, and we will see you in a week's time for round 4. Good night.